Hello everybody, Andrew Casey at HyperSanityBooks. Today I'll be talking about 10 different ways to outline your novel. At the last point I'll touch on the customized method that I use myself. Now this is just presenting information in smaller pieces to help with whatever type of book you are writing. Let's get into it. Number 10. The hero's journey. Now, this also is called monomyth, some of the formulation. With a lot of schools around the world, the hero's journey is one of the more common methods that is used. I'll just break it down in a simple form. Starts off with home to the adventure, mentor, struggles, death and rebirth point, atonement, and returning home. The method is a simple method to use, and it is referenced a lot to come back to as a simple outline on how the story goes from the start to the end. Number 9, 3-act structure. I use this method myself the most with all of my writing. I also customize from this method, but I'll just stick to this point for the moment. With the 3-act structure, it is formulated, some people formulate it in two different ways, where it's into thirds. Usually it's the first quarter is Act 1, Act 2 is half of the story, and then Act 3 is the final quarter. That is the more common outline for the 3-act structure. Number 8, plot point theory. Indicing incident, then the first plot point. Pinch point 1, the midpoint of your story. Pinch point 2, the black moment. Usually that's before leading into Act 3. Then you have the plot point 3, leading to the final battle and the ending to your story. I'm not too keen on the plot point theory. One flaw with the plot point theory that I find I get a lot of questions about, it's having a story that's too rigid, where there's too much emphasis on the points, where there is no flow or consistency within the story. That's one of the fallbacks to the plot point theory. However, it's not entirely bad as a method for some people. I'm just trying to present a bit of information forward. Number 7, middle method moment. With this structure, it's starting your story within the middle of the book, and that might seem weird to some. You're starting at the middle point to the mirror moment. A couple examples: the never-ending story with the magic mirror gate. This happened in Star Wars Episode 8 with Rey. With the mirror moment, it's being faced between the character to that massive development moment in the middle of the story, and then the rest of the story is written from the center, leading out to the beginning and the ending. With the mirror point, I also like to say, madness is in the mirror where true reflections hide. Master plot formula. This type of outlining I find is effective. You'll see it more with short stories and then some small novellas, some normal books. Now, if we're going to just break it down in a simple form, you look at the Beast Quest books. You read one, you read them all. I find some of the formula to the books, you could be estimating between, we'll just say 6,000 words for this argument. So you would break down the story into 4 sections. 1,500 words for the first quarter, where you're introducing the characters, the setting, and there's trouble. Then you have the second quarter, where it's double trouble, and then triple trouble, and then all hope seems lost in the 4th part. The idea of this structure, and what I'm trying to show in the example here, you could apply this to the Goosebumps books, where if you have a formula to how you're formulating your story, you can mass write books going back to this type of formula, and it is effective as an outline to keeping to that even word count from point of the book to the next, to the next, to the final point. Which will bring me to another point. Number 4, scenes and sequels. One of the best examples, I'll start off with the author's name, Leela Lou Darlin. I reviewed the book Digmatized on this channel. I have looked at a few of her other books. I enjoy it, to be honest. It's not as bad as other romance books that I've looked at. A lot of romance books I can't get into because of the fake fantasy, the illusions. With this type of storytelling, it worked well. For an example, one chapter it's from the protagonist's point of view, being the girl, and then she will speak, and what she does will create a different reaction to the next scene being from his point of view. And that type of chopping and changing works. This type of romance story shows things from two perspectives, where they're not necessarily antagonists, if that's making sense. There's other elements within the story that has that antagonistic feel. I found the characters were a lot more realistic. To the scenes and sequels method, I find this works for character development, where you look at a training montage, a character is trying something, and one thing that they're doing is going to cause a positive or negative reaction in something else. And the scenes keep working through, and that engagement with the scenes and sequels method may be something to do with your book on how you outline. Number 3, beats production. One of the things I like with the beats method, you might write a paragraph and you might work on different sections of your book to where you think you already have your story outlining. One thing that I'm doing at the moment with the other book I'm working on with another co-author, this works well. So she's more of a pantser, she can write. I am an outliner, I am also too much of an outliner where I have a lot of different methods, which we'll get to the next point soon. With what we're doing here, she will write and send me emails and messages on certain paragraphs and texts into the book that we're working on together, and I can take some of that and put it into the outline that I've already got in a different way the story works. One thing I did with Dark Sparrow the Mastermind, I worked on different characters at different moments and sections and just worked on writing random paragraphs, knowing somewhere where that will be within the story. So the beats method might be something that will work for you. And the thing I do like with the beats method, you also work with the beats and the production method to have more than a blank page to work with as you're outlining your novel. The problem though, you can get caught up into too much overthinking and outlining with this method. However, I'm also finding it's interesting working with another co-author, as two minds are working in the different ways that we think and perceive what we're creating for the story. That's another book we'll be talking about at another time. Number 2, no outline at all. This is something I've never done before, and as previously mentioned with the other book I'm co-writing with, I'm starting to find this method to be quite interesting. It's not having an outline at all, it's just getting down and writing. This gives you more than a blank page, and the thing that I do like within this method, and touching on the other video, writing into the dark, you can find yourself pushed to be a quicker author. Stephen King is also known as a pantser. He will just write, and it gets to another point where the writing can be effective to only need to do 1 or 2 drafts of the book. Number 1, my crazy method. I use the 3-point structure myself for all of my writing. Now, I also add in 7 points to this method. The first point is the beginning of the book, usually the first 1 or 2 chapters. Chapter 3 is where I put as my second point. We're focusing more of the theme of the story within this point. Number 3 is the beginning of Act 2. Number 4 is the midway point, or as I like to call it, Act 2.5. Then point 5 is beginning into Act 3. Point 6 is focusing on the rising action and the climax. Then the 7th point is the final chapter and the resolution. That all being said, I can talk about that in another video, but that's another video for another time. If this video was helpful, or you learnt anything, or you're interested in some creative ideas or some other case study videos that we're doing, please hit the like button, subscribe, comment. If you have any other writing questions, don't hesitate to email me, andrewcasey@hypersanitybooks.com, and I'll try to present this information through videos ahead. And I'll see you all next time.